Greetings, Eric Bakker, naturopath and author of Candida Crusher. Thank you for tuning into my video today. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about various immune presentations and Candida, the initiation of Candida and the continuation of a Candida yeast infection, and particularly how these immune conditions relate to stress. I've previously made some videos, some YouTubes on stress and Candida, but I just want to explain some more concepts that you may not be familiar with. I've studied adrenal fatigue and thyroid conditions now for several years and found a remarkable connection between patients with various forms of fatigue and hypoadrenalism and hypothyroidism and chronic yeast infections. There's a major connection and a very understated connection. Patients who have varying levels of cortisol, particularly in the initial stages of stress, will have heightened cortisol responses, and in the later stages of adrenal and thyroid malfunctions will have very low levels of cortisol. Cortisol is a very powerful hormone that the adrenal glands manufacture that has many different effects on the person's health, particularly their immune health. So with continual low-grade stress and with low output of cortisol, we're going to get white blood cells that are just not going to effectively have the power to control and conquer a yeast infection. Lymphocytes, important white blood cells, have got a very high affinity for cortisol in particular. In fact, the affinity for this hormone on white blood cells is many hundreds of times greater than many other cells of the body. You will know the connection between stress and acute illness. With continual low-grade chronic stress that I see in many of my patients, particularly emotional stress, people who are still having issues today with financial problems as a result of our financial downturn, people with relationship problems, problems with their boss or their partner, with their children, with next door neighbors, money problems, all sorts of problems. These sorts of issues certainly create long-term low-grade stress. As cortisol depletion occurs more long-term, with increasing adrenal fatigue, we see increasing chronic candidiasis. All of these YouTube clips I look at focus on diet, diet, diet. Take this supplement, eat this food, don't eat this food, eat paleo, eat low carbo, eat low yeast. But they're foregoing the fact that if unfortunately the lifestyle is not remedied, the Candida will continue unabated. So with low cortisol, what we start seeing initially with patients are acute infectious diseases which seem to take over. We see recurring urinary tract infections. We see skin infections. We see more types of acne and eczema presentations, for example. It's very common to see respiratory infections, sinus infections, tooth infections, all sorts of infections in the initial stages of chronic burnout with patients. As these continue on, we're starting to see more hypersensitivities. All right, we see more allergies. Lots of Candida patients have got allergies and leaky gut. They can't tolerate gluten. They can't tolerate beta-casein in milk. They can't tolerate the protein in egg. They get all these intolerances and allergies. Two different responses, allergies and intolerances. You can read about that in my Candida book. The third thing we start seeing is more autoimmune disease. Lots of Candida patients have got psoriasis. 75% of psoriasis patients have Candida. In my new psoriasis program, you can read all about that. And unfortunately, nearly all cancer patients have got a yeast infection. So you can now start seeing the relationship between poor immune health and candidiasis, chronic Candida. You can start seeing the relationship with adrenal fatigue and Candida. So unless you address these lifestyle factors, you're not really going to get a handle on chronic Candida. My book Candida Crusher contains a large amount of information on adrenal fatigue, on how you can recover from adrenal fatigue and get your life back again and finally kick Candida in the butt. Right? And you're going to do this very effectively with a powerful immune system. If you want to power up your immune system, get those adrenals and thyroid really working. We didn't have enough time in this video clip to go over hypothyroidism, but I'll address that in another video on the link between hypothyroidism and adrenal fatigue and Candida. So check out my book Candida Crusher, the authoritative 712-page guide on how to get rid of your Candida. But remember this thing, the parting words: if you get your lifestyle right, primarily, and diet secondarily, you're going to have a real fighting chance of getting rid of Candida. Thanks for your time today.